The wind blew across the desert plain, like a beast trying to bury every trace of human sorrow. The sun was slipping behind the hills, blood red and heavy, as the lone rider came up the trail. His horse was tired, his hat pulled low, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The world around him was empty, quiet until he heard it, a voice faint, trembling, almost carried away by the wind. "Please, be my husband, just for tonight." He pulled his reins so sharply the horse neighed and reared. His eyes scanned the dry brush until he saw her, a woman, kneeling in the dirt beside a small campfire that was struggling against the wind. In her arms, a boy no older than 5, pale and shivering beneath a ragged blanket. The rider's name was Clay Redden, a rancher from the far edge of Santa Mesa, a man who'd buried his wife 3 winters ago and since then spoke more to his horse than to people. He looked down at her, torn dress, dirt on her hands, eyes wild with exhaustion, and felt that uneasy pull in his chest that came whenever he saw something broken. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice dry as dust. She stood, clutching the boy close. "Please," she repeated, "be my husband, just for tonight." Clay dismounted slowly, his boots crunching the sand. "Lady, that's a mighty strange thing to ask a stranger." Her lip trembled. "They're coming. The landlord's men. They said if I can't pay, they'll take everything, my house, my boy." Her voice cracked. "But if they think I got a husband, they might leave us be. I just need one night." "What lie?" Clay said nothing for a long while. The boy's faint coughing echoed like a ghost. He could have turned his horse and ridden on. He should have. But there was something in her eyes. Not beauty, not charm. Just that raw, hopeless courage that reminded him of the last time he saw his wife alive, holding his hand through fever and dust storms. He sighed. "All right," he said quietly, "just for tonight." Her knees nearly gave out with relief. She led him down a narrow trail to a crooked little cabin. The boards creaked, the windows were patched with paper, and smoke barely crawled out of the chimney. She whispered, "My name's Eleanor Mayfield." "Clay," he replied. Inside, she lit a lantern, and the warm glow touched her face. She couldn't have been older than 30, but hardship had carved her features like dry riverbeds in stone. She poured him weak coffee, though her hands trembled so badly half of it spilled. Her boy sat quiet by the fire, staring at Clay like he wasn't sure if he was real. "Say good night to your pa," Eleanor said softly. The boy blinked. "Pa?" Clay forced a smile. "That's right, son. Best get some sleep now." The child's head dropped to the blanket, and soon only his small breaths filled the cabin. Eleanor folded her hands on the table, eyes glistening. "Thank you. I swear I wouldn't have asked if I had any other choice. They're cruel men, Clay. I thought I could fight 'em off, but—" She looked toward the window. "They'll be here soon." He nodded. "Then we best make this look convincing." She hesitated, unsure how. Clay took off his hat and set it on the peg near the door. He pulled his coat tighter, rolled up his sleeves, and sat close enough to the fire to cast his shadow across the room, like a protector. They didn't talk much. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was thick with unspoken pain, 2 lonely souls thrown together by fate's cruel joke. Then came the sound of hooves. Eleanor froze. Clay's hand went to his holster. 3 men rode up the path, their horses snorting steam into the cold night air. One dismounted, a tall brute with a scar across his jaw and a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. He pounded on the door. "Evening, Miss Mayfield," he called. "Come to collect what's due." Clay's voice cut through the cabin like steel. "She's got no debt tonight." The door creaked open and the man blinked, taken aback. "Well, who the hell are you?" "Her husband," Clay said flatly. The scarred man laughed. "That's so?" "Funny, nobody mentioned her having a husband." Clay stood, the lantern casting his shadow large and dark behind him. "Then consider it a new development." The man's laughter faded. He spat on the floorboards. "You can't bluff me, cowboy. You don't look like no family man." "Don't look like one," Clay said. "Maybe, but I sure as hell can act like one when I need to." His eyes were hard now, his hand steady near his revolver. You got 5 seconds to turn that horse around and ride before I start settling debts my own way." The landlord's man hesitated, looking between Clay's cold stare and the woman standing behind him, clutching her child. Something in Clay's eyes, something fierce and unbreakable, made the man take a cautious step back. He forced a grin. "All right, mister. Didn't mean no trouble. Just business, you know." He tipped his hat mockingly. "Guess we'll come back another day." Clay didn't answer. He just stared until they were gone. When the sound of hooves faded, Eleanor collapsed into the chair, shaking. "You scared them off." "For now," Clay said, holstering his gun. "They'll be back when they smell weakness again." She looked at him, eyes wide. "Why'd you help me?" He stared into the fire. "Because someone should have done the same for my wife." The crackling flames filled the silence between them. Eleanor leaned back, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I didn't want this life. I used to play piano in Prescott. My husband, Daniel, he went west to find work. Never came back. They said he died in a mining cave-in. But I kept hoping." Clay's jaw tightened. "Hope's a hard thing to kill. Sometimes it just dies slow." She nodded. "You talk like a man who's buried too much." "I have," he said simply. "Wife, son, both taken by fever. Left me with land, horses, and ghosts." Her eyes softened. "I'm sorry," Clay shrugged. "Ain't sorry that hurts. Means it mattered." Outside, the wind rose again, howling through the cracks in the cabin walls. It sounded almost like voices from the past, crying, calling, warning. The boy stirred in his sleep, murmuring, "Mama." Eleanor brushed his hair back and whispered, "It's all right, sweetheart. Go back to sleep. Your pa's here now." Clay looked at her. The words hit something deep in him, something he thought had turned to stone years ago. For a second, he wished it wasn't a lie. He stayed the night sitting by the door, rifle across his knees, watching the horizon through the slats of the window. He didn't sleep. Men like him rarely did. When dawn finally painted the world in pale gold, Eleanor woke to find him still there, eyes red but steady. "You can go now," she said softly. "They won't come back. Not after last night." He rose slowly, dusted his hat, and stepped toward the door. "You should still be careful. Move if you can. Find someplace safer." She smiled faintly. "And you? You'll just ride off and forget us?" He hesitated. "Forget? No, but I got no right to remember either." "Maybe you do," she said quietly. "You saved us." He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him again. "Clay," she whispered. "You could stay. Not as my husband, but maybe as my friend. The boy, he needs someone to look up to. And She swallowed the rest. He looked at her, the morning light tracing her face, fragile but strong, tired but unbroken. He could have said yes, could have stayed, built a new life out of the ashes of their pasts. But some men are built for wandering. Some hearts never stop bleeding. He tipped his hat. "You don't need me, Eleanor. You just needed a man who'd stand up for you once. You'll find the rest on your own." Her eyes shimmered. "Maybe, but I'll never forget the night I wasn't alone." Clay stepped outside, mounted his horse, and rode into the rising sun. The wind carried his trail away like it had carried her whisper the night before. When she turned back inside, her boy was awake, rubbing his eyes. "Where's Pa?" he asked. She knelt beside him, smiling through her tears. "He had to go, honey. But he'll be watching over us." The boy nodded, half believing, half dreaming. Eleanor went to the doorway and watched the horizon until he disappeared. Then she whispered to the empty road, "Thank you, stranger." By noon, the desert had swallowed his tracks. But his memory stayed behind in that tiny cabin, a memory wrapped in kindness and pain, in lies that felt more real than truth. And somewhere far ahead, Clay Redden rode into another sunset, a man with no home, carrying the ghost of a promise he never made. For one night, he had been a husband again. For one night, she had not been alone. And in a world where love and loss rode side by side, that was enough to keep them both alive, if only in memory.